All right. So where was I? All right. So this is part 3 of my story, and my story is basically just to help anybody out there that maybe is going through anything similar as a kid, young adult, grown ass adult, whatever. Anything that I've been through in my life, if I could share it and it could help somebody, then I've met my goal. So this is part 3. So if you've been listening, part 1 and part 2, along with another little episode in there that would fill in the gaps and help understand some of the context to what I've been through as a young kid, adolescent, younger adult. Um, you've got an idea. So this is part 3. So I finally made it out of the house for good this time with Vicky, my now wife, then girlfriend. After working in corrections for about 5 or 6 months, that's when I was like, all right, I got to get out of there, and thankfully, Vicky was able to show me, a different side of things. She was never pushy. To a point she was pushy, but she was never pushy to where like I felt like I was being manipulated or it was like someone else, like my stepfather. So it was nothing like that. It was actually more of an awakening, like a true awakening. So yeah, so I finally escaped out of the house, for good, and with one of my biggest cheerleaders, and my best friend, and all my other close friends and family that have talked to me throughout the years and tried to give me advice and gave me like these little pep talks, or saying, "Hey, you should get out of there. Try this, try that." I just never had the courage to do it. They all saw what was going on at that time, and they were cheering for me. And that meant a lot too because I've had guidance throughout the years from other people, older cousins and whatnot, and older friends and even best friends that have been there throughout the whole thing. Just they were staying in their place because they didn't want to feel like they were overstepping, but they all gave me guidance, and I appreciate that very, very much. So but yeah, so they all played their own parts in my story. So realizing that God had put Vicky in my life at the perfect time, and honestly, what a protector too, of all people. We have a nickname that we call her Captain Save a Ho, and that is the truth because if anybody's in need, this girl will jump right in to do the right thing, and that's what makes her so much like me, and I think why we just click so much. But yeah, so it was just perfect timing, and I knew right then and there I was never gonna let this person go. So we moved into our own little condo, a 2-bedroom condo, and it was a perfect little place, to get our life started. And I knew I don't ever want to let this person go. So I already knew right then and there I was going to wind up, asking her to marry me. And it was exciting, that was a crazy exciting. I'm excited. I finally escaped this place. We're figuring out our own way, as young adults. She's going through getting a new job. I just got a new job. Um, we got a vehicle for her. I got a new vehicle because my Mitsubishi crapped out on me in the academy. RIP. It was a fun car, but I got a Ford Escape. Fuck forward, but yeah, I got a Ford Escape. So but we both got new to us cars. Obviously used, and then new careers were just getting started. So I asked her to marry me. We were at what is it Cafe Maya down in Fishkill, and there was some family there. My mother was there. Why? I don't know. Some people ask me why I bothered, but I am me. So I had her there. Looking back on it now and watching some videos, obviously everybody was happy except for one person, and I'll leave that up to your imagination. So, and it's very apparent anyway. So, but yeah. So I asked her to marry me, and as we lived together, we went and got married in November later on that year. So we were together for you know I'd probably say we lived together for a couple of months, but we were together almost every single day since we started dating. Constantly, constantly. Because I mean, also I never wanted to be in that house, and who else better to be around besides someone who believed in me, and someone who pushed me to do things that were uncomfortable that made me grow. as a person. So why would I not want to be around that person constantly? So yeah, so we got married in November, and then later on found out, she's pregnant, and now we have our first kid coming on the way, and that was a huge moment for me when I was told that I was going to be a father. I'm like, holy shit, what a great moment! Like it was just it was amazing. That I will never forget that moment when she told me that, and it was I mean it was heartwarming, life changing, scary as fuck at the same time as I hope I could do this because I wasn't really given the example or the proper example of what to do, but God has a funny way of just making sure things work out. And as long as you trust in Him, it will work out. It will work out. It will always work out. So, it was time to step up and to be the best provider that I possibly could for my wife and future kids. So, but this time I was going to do it differently than what I was shown. So, we're doing what all parents do and all new parents do. And, we're trying to get everything prepped around the little condo that we had and to prepare us, Um, Vicky's sister lived with us at that time. So that was great. We were like a trio for a while, partying it up before we, settled down. But, we were having a good time, and, we were doing as best as we could to prepare for this kid that was coming now. So we had our ups and downs mentally, physically, financially, along with a couple of different moves after that. I'm just going to fast forward because a lot of it's, just typical stuff. We moved into a house. That house was a little creepy, but that's the house that our daughter was born or we lived in during our daughter's birth. Creepy house. I'll probably bring that up in a paranormal episode eventually, but definitely fucked up. But good memories overall. But yeah, and then we moved into a small apartment in Poughkeepsie. You know, that was also an adventure in itself. Tiny little place. Black mold kept growing. Then as a newborn, you want to keep those kids out of black mold. So we had running away from that place too. And we eventually landed back into the same neighborhood where we started, which is pretty cool because we loved that neighborhood, little townhouses. So we got a 3-bedroom little townhouse, and then we decided that we wanted to add another person to our family. And then we wound up trying to get pregnant again and successfully got pregnant again. And then came Liam. So with a growing family, we needed more space. Liam was born in 2018, which was right before the whole pandemic thing in late 19. So he was like a year and change, so that's a scary situation because during the whole pandemic, quote unquote, having a tiny baby and a younger kid, you're like, holy shit, what's going on? So you want some sort of sense of security during a time of just straight chaos in the beginning. So I was obsessed with trying to get a house. Like I was obsessed with trying to find a home for us to just have forever and to just be our little sanctuary, our home, something that we could call our own. So with time, you know, we wound up looking at a couple of different places and having a bankruptcy on my record, I knew it was going to be a tough task to try to secure a home at that time. I researched so many different ways to try to like make it easier or possible for me to even try to get a home for us because we're just starting out in our like at this point we're like maybe 3 years into our career or maybe 5 years or somewhere around there, and we're still growing at this point. So we're looking at houses, some of them were steep, and I was like, let's try maybe to look into other avenues. So I found out that there's something called a deed in lieu, which will allow you to remove somebody from the deed who has co-signed. So this way, that would actually allow me, talking to a mortgage broker, he said that would allow me to have a little bit of an easier time to secure a home loan. And a deed in lieu would remove me off the deed, and it wouldn't make me responsible or even involved in any type of, I guess, foreclosure on the house that my parents were still squatting in. Because at this point, they were still squatting in a house for 8 years, So we were trying to find a home, and they refused to sign a deed in lieu when I asked them. because they were advised by their lawyers that it would assume all responsibility of the house. And I was like, what do you mean? And they were being told supposedly that, if a mortgage company cannot find the original note for the borrower, then the house has to be awarded to the person that's there. Didn't sound right to me, didn't make sense, but just the simple gesture of not wanting to sign a deed in lieu to help your son out after everything that we've been through together so they could get their lives started, selfishly said, no, I'm not going to sign it because we'll assume all responsibility for something that we should have been responsible for in the first place. So, but yeah, that was a little, fucked up. I felt, so it was sort of like, all right, well, whatever. I wasn't expecting much of help anyways. It was just sort of like a last ditch effort, but I focused on whatever. I guess it wasn't meant to be. We'll have to find another way. And that's the one thing that Vicky and I have always said. We constantly always say to each other, when things get tough, don't worry, we'll find a way. No matter what, we will always find a way. So, with one little one and a newborn on the way, we buckled down every way that we could. So we just hunkered down where we were at in the townhouse. Nothing wrong with it, a little bit of a pain in the ass landlord, but who isn't sometimes. But yeah. So we just made it happen. We did what we had to do. We hunkered down during the whole pandemic and whatnot, but I kept seeing this financial situation, or the market anyways, the housing market change, and I'm like, wow, like all these prices are dropping on these houses, the interest rates are staying around the same. I'm like, oh man, I was like, we have to take advantage of this. So, and this is like, I think like a year later, or a year or two later after, we tried doing the deed in lieu. And so yeah, so we wound up landing a house, and we celebrated as if anybody would. We actually got a house, and this is the house that we're in right now, where I built the studio as well. And I love it. I will never let this house go. Um, and I will say, like, it's a good feeling. So everybody's celebrating, families all happy for the most part. Most families happy, you know. I will say, people still wonder why I still talked to my parents at this point in my life. And we're talking like this is 2020. This is only like 3 years ago. Like why do I even still acknowledge them after everything I've been through? And you don't want to know what? I don't know. I honestly I don't know. It took a long time for me to cut that one off. And it's rough. It's your parents. You don't see them as people sometimes, you just see them as your parents, and that's just the way life goes. Some people don't see that, and I didn't see that. It took me a very long time, and even more abuse in different ways, you know what I'm saying? And sort of abuse towards other people that are in my family right now, you know what I'm saying? Like no one deserves to be, neglected or something like that. Even kids, the kids have no, responsibility or any type of reason for you to not see them. But people were wondering why give the time of day. And honestly, I don't have an answer for that. I think it was hard for me to let it go. And that's the one thing, that's a lesson learned in life, especially with this whole my story that I'm telling is, you're going to have people who are insanely close to you or related to you, or, even best friends and stuff like that. There are going to be people in your life where you're going to have to take that step back and look at them as a person and not just as a title, mother, father, brother, best friends, anybody that has a title that's supposed to be. If they're not fulfilling that part or acting that part, then it's time to take a step back and analyze that relationship. If you could mentally do that, sometimes you need to talk to people or need to have insight, or get help to even see that, because most people don't even want to entertain that. It makes them very nervous. But I've always had a way of doing that, to taking a step back, no matter who the person is. But with this, it was a little different. It took me a long, long time to realize that, okay, I need a break from these people that are definitely not good for me or good for my family. And family comes first. I don't care what anybody says. And by family, I mean family as well, because friends are family. Just, and I've said it in other podcast episodes too. Just because you're related doesn't make you family. That's not how that goes, because family is always there, even if they're friends or not. So, you know, with that, you know, my mother came over for the very first visit since we bought the house. And why, I don't know, but she came over, she's looking around, and the whole aura and the feel, and just the feeling in the room, it just became negative and cloudy, and I don't know how else to, the energy in the room just didn't seem happy. She came over, showing her the house, just like, "Hey, we did it," showing future plans, trying to renovate the house. And all I kept getting was this feeling of like negative, envious and jealous and just not happy for me. And there was one comment that sort of stood out, which was, looking downstairs in the basement, like, "Oh, this looks like a future place for your parents to live." This and that. It's like, whoa, slow down. Hold up. Wait a minute. Not happening. Not happening. And that's where I drew the line. I was like, absolutely not. I don't know why you would think that would be okay to even say something like that. Like, that's not, like you're going to take advantage of me for the last time. Nope, not happening. So I drew that line right then and there. And that was sort of like the starting point of me realizing it's time to step back and look at this person as a person and not just as the title, you know? And this was a rough one for me because this is my own mother. And like I've said, we all have these people in our lives, you know what I'm saying? But you have to be able to see that, you know? So I noticed that, ever since that day, she would slowly fizzle out and, show up here and show up there. Sometimes not show up, sometimes show up just to take pictures because there are such thing as picture grandmas. We all have those people, maybe not just grandmas in our lives, but we all have these people in our lives who come in for the photo op, take the pictures, make it look good, post it on whatever social media they want, and then go home. And sometimes that makes people happy, sometimes it doesn't. I was willing to put that aside, and just try to focus on that relationship. But as life goes on, you realize that in order for somebody to do what is right, they have to be able to know that they're doing something wrong. Not excusing the behavior. I don't know to this day. I still don't know to this day if my mother realizes what she's doing wrong. You know what I'm saying? But it's just a part of life. That's a part of life. And sometimes we have to cut certain people out of our lives, whether it be temporary, whether it be permanent, who knows? But it's all about how you perceive things and how you react to certain things. And sometimes you do make mistakes, sometimes you don't, but you do what's right in the moment. And you just follow your heart, follow God and his guidance. And you could always forgive. You don't have to forget. You could always forgive. And I do forgive. I do, for even still to this day. I forgive my mother for everything that's going on still to this current day, which isn't much anymore. You know what I'm saying? Because it's sort of like a break. But I forgive her. I don't know if I have it within me to forgive my stepfather because there's so much more to that story within itself, but it's not my story to tell. It's not my story to tell. It's my sibling's story. They have their own stories. We all perceive things differently, and my story may be different from theirs. Certain events, absolutely, that we went through, completely factual and truthful. But how they perceived things in the home, in that house, may be different than how I did. So it's not my story to tell. But I do forgive for the most part as much as I can, as much as, God can allow me, because I am only human, just like all of us. We are only human. And I just wanted to put this message out there as this is part 3, and it's probably the final my story within maybe a couple other episodes to fill in some more context. But I just, my message is honestly, like, if anybody has gone through anything as kids, whether that be verbal abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, just uncleanly or healthy conditions to live in as kids, not eating, being hungry, anything you can possibly go through, if I can help in any sort of way with my story or any type of guidance, I will. Or if you're still hanging on to something in the past that you maybe need help letting go of, or just bullshitting or talking, I am always here to talk. And even though our stories are different, there are still similarities to everybody's past and everybody's, future, really. But like, honestly, it's just, if I can help, I will. And I'm hoping that, my story and what I've explained so far, anyways, will help somebody who has gone through similar situations in their lives. But just remember, there's always a will, like, there's always a way and a path that you can take. There's never the end of the road. I just want people to realize that. The end of the road is when you finally go up to God at the end of your life and you have everything that you've done for in your life to answer for, and hopefully you're living the best life you can by God's will. So yeah, it's just, I guess I could say, like my shirt, focus on the good. You take a shitty situation and you turn it into good. You find a way to use shitty experiences in your life, whether that be any type or any I guess any point in your life, as a kid, as an adult, or just bad things that happen. Something bad could happen tomorrow, and the next day you could find a way to use that. And yes, it's hard to stay on track and it's hard to think like that. You have to actively try. You can't just expect everything to happen for you. That's why you have to make that shit happen. So, with all this being said, I hopefully you guys enjoyed the story. Don't take anything as pity or anything like that. I'm here to help as best as I can with the experiences that I've gone through. So, if that worked, then it worked. And just thank you for listening. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like what you hear. There will be more episodes of other things that are coming up, like aliens and ancient civilizations, coming up very soon. Um, there's so many people that want to talk to me about it, so I'm trying to figure out, maybe I should do a part 1, part 2, part 3 of that. Maybe, I don't know, but I got to just decipher through it and go through that and organize it and see what I want to do with that. So also, I was also brought up with the topic of astronomy and outer space, which is actually a topic that I don't really know much of, so I'm excited to talk about that too. So, but thank you again, guys, for sticking through and sticking with me here, and enjoying as much as you can of what I put out. So, thank you.